Ahlan. Right now we're going to talk about a special group of words in Arabic called inna and its sisters. Inna wa akhawatiha in Arabic. You may have already studied another group of words, kana and its sisters, which function in a similar but not identical way in terms of how they dictate sentence structure and appropriate case endings in formal Arabic. Here are 6 of the sisters of inna that you might encounter. Inna itself is a particle that's kind of difficult to translate in English, and in fact often we don't, but it's usually added at the beginning of a sentence to draw the reader's attention to the importance of it. Sometimes if you read, for example, an old translation of an Arabic text, they will translate inna as verily or forsooth or something like that, but often these days inna is not necessarily even translated as a word into English from Arabic. It just doesn't have a function in English the way it does in Arabic. Ka'anna means as though or as if, when we're sort of saying that things seem to be a certain way. Li'anna is a word that you probably know because you've already been using it, and now we're going to learn a little more about its grammar and the ways that it affects formal sentences. Lakinna is a variant of lekin or welekin, which you already know, and its meaning is entirely synonymous. It just means but. La'alla can be used to express perhaps possibility or maybe a hope or a fear about something. You know, perhaps he's in his house. Perhaps I'll get to travel to Beirut this summer. And layta conveys a meaning of wishing for the impossible, kind of like if only in English. If only you were here. If only the ustadh hadn't made the test so long and hard. Things of that nature. So all of these particles must be followed in formal Arabic by a jumla ismiya, a nominal sentence. Remember that a jumla ismiya is formed of 2 parts in its most basic form. Al-mubtada wal-khabar, the subject and the predicate. So here is a jumla ismiya. But when we have an inna sentence or a sentence with another sister of inna, the terminology changes a little bit. Let's just start with a jumla ismiya so that we can see the comparison. If we said, my favorite example sentence, Al-ustadh gharib. The professor is strange. That's a jumla ismiya. And the mubtada comes first, and then the khabar. And both the mubtada and the khabar are in the marfu'a case. So we would have a dhamma over the definite mubtada and then dhamma tanween over the indefinite khabar. Al-ustadhu gharibun is how we would pronounce it fully vocalized in formal Arabic. Now, suppose that we wanted some real Arabic style here and we wanted to say, yea, verily I say unto you, the professor is strange. We could begin that sentence with inna. But then in terms of the terminology, the nomenclature, we would change things a little bit. We still have the same words, it can still work. But instead of referring to the subject here as mubtada, we would refer to it as ism inna. If we were using another one of these particles, we would say ism ka'anna, ism lakinna, or whatever the case may be. And then this would be khabar inna. You might recognize this again as very similar to the terminology that we use to talk about a nominal sentence that comes after kana and one of its sisters, except that it's ism inna and khabar inna instead of ism kana and khabar kana. The other little difference is that after inna or one of its sisters, the ism is always mansoob, not marfu'a. And then the khabar is marfu'a. So in this case, ism inna would need to be mansoob with a fatha, and then khabar inna would still be marfu'a. Again, we're not likely to see these markings in a normal text, a newspaper article, a novel, anything like that. But when we are reading formal Arabic aloud, when we're speaking formal Arabic, it's important to know that these structures change just a little bit. You might also recognize this as the opposite of what happens in kana and its sisters. In that case, we would have the ism be marfu'a and the khabar be mansoob. But here, it's simply reversed. So let's look at a couple more examples. If we wanted to say, he likes California because the weather is beautiful. California if I were reading it quickly without case endings, I would say يحب كاليفورنيا لأن الطقس جميل. But here we want the i'rab. Okay, we have what would be a jumla ismiya, and now here if I wanted to just mark it up and determine which words were serving which functions, I would say that this is ism لأن, the subject of the sentence that comes after لأن, and then here is khabar لأن. And again, ism لأن is always going to be mansoob, so I'm going to add a fatha here, and then khabar لأن is marfu'a once again. Oops, lost my chalk. If we wanted to say perhaps the employees are around, we could express it this way. لعل. Now here we need to think about the regular plural ending and the way it's going to change in mansoob. If it were marfu'a, we would say muwazzafun, but because ism لعل needs to be mansoob, we would need to change that to muwazzafin. So we could say لعل موظفين. الموظفين, one way to say here or present or around is موجود. So in the plural, I would add my regular plural, but موجود would need to be مرفوع because it is the khabar of لعل. So لعل الموظفين موجود with my nice marfu'a ending there. And again, here would be my ism, and here would be my khabar. Ism la'alla and khabar la'alla. One wrinkle that you should be aware of is that in all of these cases, after any of these particles, sometimes we want to begin a nominal sentence with a pronoun and not a regular noun. So perhaps we already know that we're talking about al-muwazzafin in this case, and we wanted to just say, maybe they're around, perhaps they're around. In that case, we would attach a pronoun suffix to la'alla that works just like the pronoun suffixes that you know, the possessive suffixes. And we could say لعلهم موجودون. And with the pronoun suffixes, we don't need to worry about marking case. We know that theoretically, because the hum functions as the ism of la'alla, it is mansub, but we aren't going to change the vowels in any way to make that manifest. It's just understood. One last thing. Sometimes for reasons of style, someone might want to use a verb directly after inna or one of its sisters, in which case you can insert kind of a dummy pronoun, a placeholder pronoun attached to inna or one of its sisters. And that pronoun is always going to be hu, the masculine singular third person variant. So if we wanted to say, they said that the windows were smashed, we could express it this way. قالوا إنه إنه كسرت الشبابيك. Now here we have a passive verb, and shababik is the subject of that passive verb. So this huwa doesn't refer to a specific grammatically masculine individual or object that smashed the windows. We just know that the windows were smashed, and we haven't attributed an actor to that action. So more than anything else, you should be prepared to encounter that in reading. If you're reading a text in Arabic and you see a ha there, it could refer to a huwa, that is the subject of a new sentence, or it could just be kind of a placeholder pronoun that lets the writer get straight to the verb that they consider the important part of the sentence. And that is inna and its sisters.